Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from Not the Commander Score Studio once again. So again, my apologies if I sound a bit different, if the audio is a little bit off, and if the images that you're seeing right now seem a bit off. Starting with the Lord of Pain, that's because they are leaks, apparently. So, again, with leaks, please take everything I say with a grain of salt on these. Take, the pictures themselves with a grain of salt as well, because they have not been officially confirmed, nor will they, ever be officially confirmed by Wizards that the leaks actually really happened until, it's way too late. So, we will find out later today if these are real, most likely. So the Lord of Pain, let's talk about it. A 5/5 human assassin with menace for 5 mana in Rakdos. I should probably say too, I believe these leaks are legitimate. 99.9% chance that they are real. So yeah, I'm into the Lord of Pain. This thing is cool. Menace, your opponents can't gain life. Whenever a player casts their first spell each turn, choose another target player. The Lord of Pain deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to the chosen player. So here's the thing. This is a really cool commander. Okay, so your opponents can't gain life already. All right, we are, you know what? Okay, we're locked in. We're loaded. We have a group slug type strategy, right? Opponents can't gain life. There's no coming back. There's no clawing back out of the pit once we get you in there. We are going to be taking your life total down again and again and again. And of course, with Menace, we can swing through. There's ways to get through with that too. Like, I think Vorak Battlehorns is the card, right? Where it's like, hey, okay, cool. Our commander's unblockable. Awesome. We don't really care. We do care about that, but we don't care about that nearly as much as we care about, demolishing our opponents with our spells and their spells. Let's read this part again. Whenever a player casts their first spell each turn. This does not say, whenever an opponent casts a spell, whenever we cast a spell, it's all players, number one. Number two, their first spell each turn. That includes, when opponents or when we cast instants on, each other's turns or spells with flash, basically. So any spell on any turn that is the first spell that player casts, we get to take that damage and have the Lord of Pain deal it to the chosen player. That is spicy because, of course, the Lord of Pain dealing the damage means that we can do some really cool things with it. Of course, we also have ways to manipulate the amount of damage that might be. So, yeah, this is a really sweet, awesome group slug commander that is just, it's awesome. When this comes to, the movie reference really quick, is this Saw-ish? I don't know. Maybe I'm missing, an obvious movie reference instead. But, it seems kind of more like a Saw type thing. And I think I've seen, okay, that's beside the point. What isn't beside the point is that this is a very exciting, brand new commander. It looks like it might be, again, according to the symbol, it looks like it would be kind of the backup commander in the Valgavoth. What? I can't say that name. The actual, Precon. But if that's the case, nothing against Valgavoth, but this is the spicier commander. Let's talk with some cards that work really well with it that you might want to consider for it. But again, take everything I say with a grain of salt because these cards have not been confirmed. So really quick, just through a couple of cards. Gratuitous Violence. Okay, yes, this is an amazing card. I'm so glad they reprinted it. When if a creature you control deal damage to a permanent or player, deals double that damage to that permanent player instead. Well worth that 5 mana investment, and we're in a 2-color deck. We can afford those 3 pips, right? So yes, being able to double up our commander's damage means that, again, if someone casts a spell that's 5 mana, now we're dealing 10 damage. Cast something that's 6, it adds up a ton throughout the game. And of course, we'll talk about one here in a bit that's like, oh yeah, 10 mana spell? Awesome, that's 20 damage. Now when it comes to the damage, Basilisk Collar. Cards like this. This is, I think, one of the best examples of a budget card that gives lifelink and equipment. 1 mana equipment. Equip creature has Death Touch and lifelink. Death Touch is actually quite nice for this commander as well because, again, we have Menace, meaning that, hey, if you're going to block my commander, you got to block with 2 or more creatures, and if I have Death Touch, that means those creatures are gone. So it can make it even harder for our commander to be blocked. Lifelink, again, our commander is actually dishing out the damage. So every single time a player casts a spell, that is their first spell that they cast in the turn, we are dishing out that amount of damage and gaining that much life. Or again, twice that much life if, Gratuitous Violence is in play. And again, our opponents can't gain life, so they are going to be so jealous when we gain that life. And of course, also, if we have all the other, group slug type cards in play, like Sulfuric Vortex, those kinds, we're actually dishing out even more damage each turn. Their life totals are going to be going down. Ours will be going down a little bit too, but we're going to be gaining it back in absolutely no time. I did kind of mention, hey, you know what? Maybe like a 10 mana spell. Spells that actually have a lot of cost reduction that we can take advantage of, like Ancient Stone Idol. This can be huge. A 12/12 Golem with Flash that costs 10, but we're never going to pay that. Costs 1 less cast for each attacking creature. Again, this can be anyone's attacking creatures, including our opponents. So, hey, take advantage of that. Cast this for potentially even free. When you do so, again, that's 10 damage. If you've got a damage doubler in play, that's 20 damage. And if you've got that life link, that's 20 damage, plus you gain 20 life. Lovely. On top of that, as Trample, when it dies, create a 6/12 colors construct artifact creature token with Trample. Yeah, again, any kind of like cost reduction cards can be great, or X spells as well if you've got a lot of mana. There's lots of ways to ramp in this too. Comes to some pricier cards I want to point out. Grafted Exoskeleton. Wizards doesn't seem keen on reprinting this too often. +2/+2. And in fact, yeah, that's quite spicy with this commander. I mean, first of all, turning our commander into a 7/7 with Menace. In fact, that can be, again, a 2-shot KO quite easily. Maybe even a 1-shot KO if we get things going. But we don't even have to hit our opponents with our commander to actually do so, because again, their spells and our spells will be doing that for us. Giving our commander Infect means that every single time a player casts their first spell each turn, we are dishing out that much in poison counters to a player. Again, only 10 poison counters to take a player out. It'll take no time at all to do so. And at a certain point, you literally can just like hold it over their heads. Like, I guess like even just with regular spells too, I guess I should mention that as well. Once a player is low enough on life, or again, has enough poison counters essentially that they are within danger of getting taken out by basically anything, you can threaten them and say, you will do my bidding now, or you will get taken out. Because I will essentially say, you know what? I cast a spell. I'm dealing that damage to you. I've got an instant right here. It costs 2, okay? I'm going to cast this if you try to do anything against me, and you will be taken out. So yeah, you can definitely politic with this as well as much as you can. Fire Emancipation, these kind of damage triplers, of course, are amazing as well. This City on Fire, etc. I mean, I think that's only 2, but still, there's probably going to be more at some point. Being able to triple up your damage, of course, is amazing because, again, any spell that is cast 3 times the amount of damage is going out to another player. Yeah, this commander is spicy. Okay, moving on from the Lord of Pain. Again, keep this in mind that all of these cards, again, except for I think the last couple I believe I put in like actual spoilers. The rest of these are leaks. Yes, a massive leaks came out, a ton of leaks. Seance Board. Cost 2. Artifact. At the beginning of each end step, if a creature died this turn, put a soul counter on it. Tap at X mana of any one color, X the number of soul counters on Seance Board. So this may only cast instant sorcery, demon, and spirit spells. Okay, this is cool. Again, this is at the end of each end step, not just your own, which means that, again, every single turn, if any creature died, doesn't matter whose creature it is, you're getting counters on this. Also, with those counters, kind of like Everflowing Chalice, if you've got proliferate effects, you can use and abuse this and get a ton of counters on it, tap for a lot of mana. This, I mean, again, is for, I would say like Spellslinger decks could consider this. You just throw this down. It would be like one of those like big kind of play cards, right? You're not counting on this for like consistency. You're counting on this for more so like, oh, by the end of the game, this is tapping for 10, maybe even more than that. And that being said, if you have a spirit deck, if you have a demon deck, probably include as well a very cool card. And actually, I do want to apologize. In case things are a bit blurry, I will do my best to read through them. Rendmaw, Creaking Nest. This looks like the backup commander for the Golgari Precon. Yeah, apparently. 5/5 Scarecrow, Ledger Artifact Creature for 5 mana Golgari. Let's see if this can upend the Reaper King. Probably not, but let's see. Menace and Reach. When this enters, and whenever you play a card with 2 or more card types, each player creates a tap 2/2 Blackbird creature token with flying. The tokens are goaded for the rest of the game. Okay, that is spicy. And I will say, actually, with these, I put this episode together as quick as I could. Again, I'm recording in not my normal circumstances right now, and I didn't get a chance to read through everything. So some of these things, many of these things, almost all these things, I'm reading for the very first time. This is cool. Okay, so again, 2 or more card types, you can very easily make an entire deck just around, oh yeah, okay, let's just put in artifact creatures, let's just say. That's probably the easiest direction to go with this. And again, when this enters as well, you're not in Azorius colors, obviously, so you don't have many blink effects, really. That being said, you do have feign death effects in black. Again, like, if this creature dies, it comes back, and then, yeah, there's the ETB again, and again, and again, and again, and again. being able to just give everyone tutus that are goated, that is spicy. Now, there is, of course, the inherent risk that once the game becomes a one-on-one, that they are swinging at you. That being said, of course, you can work your way to ensure that you are, well, going to be fine at a certain point. Again, you are getting those tap 2/2 birds as well. This is a really spicy, really cool commander that I can see going off very quickly. I mean, the way I would probably build it, again, is like low to the ground artifact creatures, have some artifact cost reduction, essentially. I mean, you could go, oh gosh, what's the Umori? You go Umori as a companion for this, potentially, and just like go all artifact creatures that cost essentially now 0, playing them, and probably having, I guess there's only so many ways to bounce artifact creatures back to your hand or bring them back from the graveyard. There's probably a good amount of that, though. Yeah, I guess maybe you don't go more as a companion, but still, being able to just get them back out again and again and again and again, getting just an absurd amount of 2/2 flyers in play. I mean, Talrand decks are going to be jealous, right? Being able to get an absurd amount of those in play, and then just all of a sudden, chaos erupts on the board when players are attacking each other with all these birds. Absolutely amazing. I love it. Yeah, this seems like a really exciting commander. I mean, it's very different than like, you know, a Reaper King type build, obviously. I mean, nothing's very like Reaper King. I don't think they're ever going to make another one of those, but yeah, this is really spicy, really cool. Next up, Into the Pit, an enchantment for 3 mana in black. Reveal the top card of your library anytime. Okay, I'm already a fan of this. I love that text. You may cast spells from the top of your library by sacrificing a non-land permanent in addition to paying its other cost. Yes, please. So this is basically Future Sight. I mean, okay, Future Sight with an adjustment, right? Future Sight reveals the card. This is better than that when it comes to not having to reveal the card. Your opponent's not knowing what's on top is great. But also, again, being able to just play spells off the top by sacrificing a non-land permanent. I am glad they did not say non-token on this, because non-token would be, yeah, this is probably a no-go for Aristocrat style decks. This is probably a go for Aristocrat style decks, because again, in those kinds of decks, you actually want to sacrifice your creatures. So again, Aristocrat style decks that have a bunch of creature fodder, maybe even treasure decks as well, or, you know, any kind of like a token deck, just being able to just sacrifice one of those things. I'm like, oh, sure, yeah, I'll play something off the top. That's so much more value. Awesome. Good for me. Yay. And again, Aristocrat style decks actually wanting to sacrifice things for value, that is huge. So this can be a massive, massive, massive card advantage engine for you. Yeah, that's quite lovely. So I definitely think that this is a really cool card. And again, like any kind of like a self-mill deck maybe too, where like you can just, you know, again, tap your Ghoul Caller's Bell and mill yourself 1 to just get rid of the top card of your library so you can get down to something better. Yeah, that's absolutely amazing in those kinds of decks too. Next up, Suspended Sentence. Very clever. Instant for 4 mana in black, suspend 3 for 1 in a blank. Destroy target creature opponent controls. That player loses 3 life, exile it with 3 time counters on it. That is cool. So again, this is one of those types of, we got a couple of these back in the past. I mean, the one that I remember the most is the one that like prevents combats or people swinging at you essentially every 3 turns. I love that one in my Feldergrift deck. This is one of those where, okay, we can just get this down early for just 2 mana. I mean, you could just save it up to like, okay, if I actually need that instant speed, get rid of something, cool. But yeah, just getting it down early for 2 mana and being like, all right, I'm gonna have some, you know, targets for this. I'm going to have some creatures to take out, and all of a sudden, yeah, be ready to just take things out again and again and again. This is just repeated removal throughout the game. I mean, is this like for every deck out there? No. Because, I mean, I would want like better response time when it comes to getting rid of things. I'd be like, oh, well, okay, a big creature's hit the board and I've got to wait 2 more turns for this to, you know, come down. Cool. Yeah, but that being said, it is a pretty spicy card. I like this design. Next up, Monstrous Emergence. A source for 2 mana in green. This is cost to cast this spell. Choose a creature you control, reveal a creature card from your hand. Deals damage equal to the power of that creature you chose to the revealed target creature. You revealed to the target creature. This is interesting. Being able to reveal a giant card out of your hand and just use that for damage, that, I don't know if we've seen that really before compared to like ones that are more so like, you know, fight type effects. So this is interesting. Is it going to see all that much play? Probably not. Again, sorcery speed, I would probably skip this one. And again, keep in mind with some of these like spoilers, leaks, take in mind the actual, you know, symbol on the card. This is from the main set apparently. The other ones that we've talked about so far, I believe, have been from the Precons. Next up, Violent Urge, again, I believe from the main set. Instant for a single red mana. Target creature gets +1/+0 against first strike until end turn. Delirium, if there are 4 more card types, gains double strike until end turn as well. I mean, double strike for a single red mana potentially. If you can get that Delirium consistently, yeah, that's quite good. I mean, I could definitely think like a One Punch Man type deck could utilize this if, again, you can consistently get, to that Delirium. If your One Punch Man deck is not about that, then probably not. Moving on. Possessed Goat. That's hilarious. 1/1 for a single white mana. Pay 3, discard a card, put 3 counters on Possessed Goat, and it becomes a black demon if other colors and types actively once. That's pretty spicy. How much play is that going to see? Probably not any at all, but that's really cool. Next up. Walk-in Closet. You may play lands from your graveyard. Yeah, that's already going to see a ton of play. That is what Crucible of Worlds basically, but in green. And also Forgotten Cellar for 5 mana. When you unlock this door, you may cast spells from your graveyard this turn. And if a card we put in your graveyard from anywhere, it's exiled instead. That is spicy. Okay, so yeah, again, Crucible Worlds already sees play. If you've got like a bunch of fetch lands, awesome. Now all of a sudden you can just like get all your lands out of your deck. I mean, throughout the game slowly, but still like be able to be like, oh, okay, I need a land. Okay, get my Evolving Wilds, crack it, get another land. Okay, next turn, do the exact same thing. Do the exact same thing. You're guaranteed to hit land drops if you can play lands out of your graveyard and you have a fetch land, basically. And then all of a sudden with that other part being like, oh, okay, big explosive turn, I'm ready to go. Yeah, I could definitely see that as like a combo piece potentially. A self-mill deck could utilize this too. There's a lot of decks that consider this really cool card. I mean, I guess if you have a bunch of fetch lands in the deck, or again, if you are, landfall decks too, but if you are, building around the graveyard at all. Next up, Formless Genesis, a shapeshifter that costs 3 mana in green. Changeling, create an XX color shapeshifter creature token with Changeling and Death Touch for X the number of land cards in your graveyard. Retrace. Oh, I love Retrace. So Retrace, I believe, again, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on this, but it's like discard a card, it shoots other costs, and you can cast it out of your graveyard. So being able to cast this spell again and again and again and again and again and again and again, that's pretty huge. And being able to just keep creating larger and larger changelings. So again, this can fit in, I'm not going to say any tribal deck, right? But basically, again, it is a changeling, so you can just keep making giant creature tokens of the whatever tribe you're playing. But also being able to, again, you do need kind of like a good amount of your lands in your graveyard, obviously, to make this worth it, be able to recast it, though. So, like, you need a deck that cares about either milling yourself or, again, a bunch of fetch lands or whatever it is, but it's a really spicy card, so do keep that in mind. Moving on. We've got Dazzling Theater. Creature spells you cast have Convoke. That's nice. And Prop Room. Untap each creature you control during, I'm assuming, each other player's untap step. This is a card where either half is massive for you. Prop Room is basically like Seedborn Muse. Is it Bellowing Drummer or whatever the one is? I don't even know what the name of that thing is. But yeah, basically being able to untap your creatures during each other player's turn. It's not Seedborn Muse, right? Seedborn Muse infects lands as well, but if you care about untapping creatures like my Garth deck does, that is huge. This card, unfortunately, is probably not going to be budget friendly because both parts are very, very applicable. And again, giving your creatures Convoke can be massive. So yeah, like low to the ground decks can use this. Obviously, any decks that care about tapping, untapping, lots of mana dorks, yeah, you can do some really cool things with this. Next up, Shroud Stomper, a 5/5 elemental with Death Touch for, was that 7 mana in Orzhov? Enters the battlefield or attacks, each opponent loses 2 life. You gain 2 life and draw a card. Draw a card. Okay, all right, that changes things a little bit. That's a really hefty mana cost on this thing. But yeah, it might be worth, trying it out in a blink deck potentially, because that is, again, you're draining your opponents, you're gaining a bunch of life, you're drawing cards. Yeah, consider it. But again, 7 mana is quite a bit. Next up, Persistent Constrictor, a 5/3 zombie snake for 5 mana in black. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, they lose 1 life, and you put a -1 counter up to 1 target creature they control. Persist. Okay, first of all, when you see the word persist or undying, this card can combo with many, many things. And there's certain commanders out there that can just combo with it, because there's ways to not have it get that counter. Basically, just Solemnity, where things don't get counters, plus a sacrifice outlet equals cool. It's coming back into play a million times. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, they lose 1 life, and you put a -1 counter in target creature they control. That's quite nice, just being able to like drain opponents throughout the game, which is nice, but also slightly shrink their creatures. If you've got a proliferate deck, this can be huge for that deck, or one that cares about -1 counters like Hapatra. Moving on. Deluge of Doom, a sorcerer for 3 mana in black. All creatures get -X until October. X the number of card types among cards in your graveyard. This one's a bit more specific on what kind of a deck might want it. Again, this is a great low to the ground board wipe if you can consistently get, you know, a good amount of things in your graveyard, different card types. Self-mill decks probably should consider this card if you just want a cheap board wipe that can just wipe out probably the entire board very easily for you. Next up, Demonic Covenant. Kindred Enchantment, Demon, for 6 mana in black. Whenever one or more demons you control attack a player, draw a card, and lose 1 life. It is 1 or more. It is attacking a player. So again, you can draw up to 3 cards if you're in Commander and attacking 3 players, right? 3 cards for 3 life. That's amazing. Beginning of your end step, create a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying, then mill 2 cards. If 2 cards that shared a card type were milled this way, sacrifice Demonic Covenant. That's interesting. Okay, so there is a potential downside to this, right? But there's also a lot of upside to it. Yeah, I mean, you could have, I guess, top of the library manipulation. Even if you, I mean, even if you happen to have to sacrifice this that first time, you can still get, you know, 3 cards out of it, losing 3 life and getting a 5/5. That might be worth it. Obviously, you're hoping to 6 on the board more. It's interesting. It's really interesting. Definitely a demon tribal, you know, consideration that could be very, very good for you. Next up, Roaring Furnace and Steaming Sauna. When you unlock this door, this room deals damage equal to the number of cards in your hand to target creature an opponent controls. It seems pretty specific. You have no maximum hand size. That's quite nice for Steaming Sauna. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card. That's the side that's going to have you using this card more often. Yeah, I mean, the other part's like nice removal, but yeah, the part that you really care about is no maximum hand size, which some decks just want all the no maximum hand size cards, and also a free draw at the end step. That's quite nice. And again, it being at the end step means you get value out of it right away. So that's quite nice. So yeah, that definitely seems like consideration for those decks. Next up, Barb Flare Gremlin. There we go. 3/2 Gremlin with first strike and haste for 4 mana in red. Whenever a player taps a land for mana, if Barb Fire Gremlin is tapped, the player adds 1 mana of any type that land produced. Then that land deals 1 damage to that player. That's cool. Okay, so this one is kind of like Mana Flare-esque in red, obviously, like a mana doubler, but also it hurts players too, but also this needs to be tapped for that to happen. Now, again, first strike and haste might be good enough for other formats to like, okay, yeah, I can consistently probably attack with this and be okay with it surviving. You might not have it survive in Commander all that much by doing so. You might need other ways to have this tapped, like a Convoke deck or like other ways to, you know, tap if your Commander has like a tap ability. This one seems pretty specific on what kind of decks want it. Like, it's kind of like a group slug-ish card, but also giving out more mana. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Moving on. We've got Gleeful Arsonist, a 1/2 human wizard for 3 mana in red. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, deals damage equal to its power to that player, and it's got Undying. So again, Undying. I mentioned earlier, persist, Undying. Combos with a lot of things. Keep that in mind, number 1. Number 2, group slug card, most definitely. Being able to hurt your opponents based off of this thing's, you know, power, that's quite nice whenever they cast non-creature spells. Yeah, if you can increase that power, if you've got a commander that can help increase that power more consistently, that can definitely be a really punishing card. Especially if you can do it so like at instant speed, your opponent's like, I don't know if I should do things. I mean, I guess you can't really do instant speed like while they're casting something, but still, being able to pump this and just keep it pumped, or pump it on their turn before they cast things, you can do a lot of work against your opponents. Next up, Convert to Slime. A sorcery for, I believe, 5 mana in Golgari. It looks like 3 black and a green. Destroy up to 1 target artifact, up to 1 target creature, and up to 1 target enchantment. Delirium. There are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, creating XX green ooze creature token where X the total mana value of permanents destroyed this way. That's quite nice. Again, like basically 5 mana, remove 3 things. Okay, there's probably more efficient ways to remove things. It's still 5 for 3 or 3 for 5 is not too bad. But also being able to be like, oh, okay, cool. On top of that, if I do have Delirium, which hopefully I do when I'm casting this, I get a giant ooze. That is probably the biggest threat on the board. Yeah, sign me up for that. So, yeah, I mean, if you have consistent ways to get that Delirium, whether, again, it's a wheel deck, whether it's a discard deck, whether it is a self-mill deck, yeah, definitely consider this for some removal plus giant upside of huge creature. Next up, Demolisher Spawn. Not sure on the mana value of this. It is a 7/7 with trample and haste, so probably quite high. Whenever it attacks, if there are 4 more card types from a card in your graveyard, other attacking creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. Yeah, this thing probably costs, I mean, it's in green, so it could cost a little less than 6. I mean, it could cost 6, I should say. I'm going to go with a card. It costs like 7. It's probably like 5 green, or it's like 6 and a green. I don't know. Okay, and if you've seen this card before, please, and you know what the mana value is, please let me know in the comments below. Regardless, this is a huge card. It does not give trample, so do keep that in mind. It is not giving trample on that attack. That being said, a giant +4/+4 to your other attacking creatures, that is huge. And being able to swing right away with this, that's huge. So I guess that's an enchantment as well. So consider it for, I guess, Enchantress aggressive decks if you really want to. It's got a lot of creatures. But yeah, basically just big, beefy creatures, stompy kind of deck. Just swing attack trigger commanders as well, ones that can double up attack triggers. Sorry, Ishin, this is not in your colors, but Wolfgar, this is in yours. So being able to swing with this, double that up, that's huge to pump. Next up, Bedhead Beastie. Interesting. 5/6 for 6 mana beast with Menace Mountain Cycling 2. Very specific for maybe a cycling deck. Other than that, really not a card for commander. Next up, Scorching Dragonfire for 2 mana in red instant 3 damage creature planeswalker. If that creature died this turn, exile instead. That is definitely more of a limited card. Next up, I cannot. Something from Slumber. 2 mana in white, looks like 1 in a white maybe. Instant, costs 3 less. Oh, it's definitely not 1 in a white. 3 less to cast if it targets a red creature, destroy target creature. Is that 3 in a white maybe? I'm not sure. Probably more of a limited card anyways. Next up, Don't Make a Sound. Instant for 2 mana in blue. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. If they do, Surveil 2. So this is interesting. Being able to kind of like mana leak something, but only 2. But again, if they actually can pay it, you still get a value for it. That's interesting. Be able to give you like, okay, like if that player does do that, then I do still get to Surveil too. So that is an interesting like concept for a counterspell where, again, even if it's stopped, you still get value. I like that. So we shall see like how much play this sees. Again, like mana leak doesn't see all that much play outside of like very, heavy counterspell decks. That being said, yeah, I mean, it seems like a pretty cool concept. So I guess if your deck really cares about surveilling and you're okay with your counterspell getting countered in a way, yeah, consider it. Moving on. Cracked Skull. An aura for 3 mana in black enchant creature enters like a target player's hand. You may choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. Enchant creature dealt damage, destroy it. This seems more like a limited card, I would say. Next up, we got Derelict Attic. When you unlock this door, you draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. And then we got Widow's Walk. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gets +1/+0 and gains Death Touch until end of turn. Very specific kind of card, I would say. If you've got a commander maybe that has First Strike, great. Giving a Death Touch consistently is great. Or if you've got a reason to give something Death Touch and benefit from that, cool. Other than that, I mean, yeah, like the draw is nice, but like obviously there's cheaper ways to draw. Yeah, it's an interesting card. Moving on. We got Moldering Gym. And then also Weight Room. Moldering Gym, when you unlock this, search the library for a basic land card, put that battlefield tap, then shuffle for 3 mana. Weight Room for 6 mana total. When you unlock this door, manifest Dread, then put 2 counters on that creature. This seems more like a very specific kind of card, like slower ramp, and also like, okay, cool, I can manifest something, but that's a lot of mana to do so, and just get 2 extra counters on it, or 3, whatever it is. Next up. Ursine Monstrosity, bear decks look out apparently. Again, not sure what the mana value of this one is, but I'm going to guess. A 3/3 Trampler, I'm going to say for 2 and a green. At the beginning of combat, near turn, mill a card and choose an opponent at random. Ursine Monstrosity attacks that player this combat Fable. Until end of turn, Ursine Monstrosity gains indestructible and gets +1 for each card among card types in your graveyard. Well, that's cool. Again, if you have a bear deck, absolutely. Yeah, this seems like, again, just the kind of card that is really spicy, where it's like, again, if opponents choose a random, just swing at everyone. That's quite fun. And also getting +1 for each card type, this can hit for a lot. So, I mean, maybe it does cost slightly more than 3. I'm not sure. But yeah, a self-mill deck could definitely consider this one, a bear deck as well, and just a Power Matters deck potentially, because this could end up hitting for a lot. And then indestructibility is quite nice. Next up. Ticket Booth / Tunnel of Hate. Ticket Booth. When you unlock this door, manifest Dread. Okay, cool. And then whenever you attack, target attacking creature gains double strike until end of turn. Okay, that is nice. That is a bit overcosted at 6. Again, this is like on something that gives you something else, but is it all that much? I'd say this one's very specific on what kinds of decks might want this one, because again, like Blood Mist is like 4 mana, and I'd much rather have that for that same like double strike effect. Next up. Defiled Crypt and Cadaver Lab. Defiled Crypt, whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 enchantment creature token. The ability triggers only once each turn. Interesting. Leave your graveyard. So kind of like, what's that commander? Oh gosh, the skeleton that's partnered. I can't remember the name. Let me know in the comments below. When you unlock this door, target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Yeah, I mean, like, if you really care about bringing creatures back out of your graveyard, like, once, cool. But the other thing, yeah, it's interesting. Again, like, you have to have a very specific deck of like, okay, like, I'm bringing creatures here, there, and everywhere out of my deck. like a Sir Conrad build like might consider it. Next up, Meat Locker and Drowned Diner. Meat Locker, whenever you unlock this door, tap up to one target creature and put sun counters on it. Cool. 2 sun counters on it. And the other one is when you unlock this door, draw 3 cards, then discard a card. Yeah, seems more specific. Maybe like a proliferate type strategy. You could consider this one because of the stun counters. Next up, Underwater Tunnel and Slimy Aquarium. Underwater Tunnel, when you unlock this door, surveil 2. Okay, for just a single mana, that seems decent. Slimy Aquarium, when you unlock this door, manifest dread, then put a counter on that creature. Again, like, yeah, like, do you really care all that much about that? Seems kind of just like a throw-in. So, yeah, I'd say it's more of specific kind of card. I mean, like, again, like 1 mana to surveil 2, that's not too bad at all. So, yeah, if you really care about getting things in your graveyard, you know, manipulate the top of your library, consider it. Next up. Okay, now these last couple ones are actually going to be real spoilers that are confirmed, okay? So that's why they look slightly less grainy. Unidentified hover ship, a 2/2 vehicle flying for 3 mana in white. Apparently aliens are a thing in Commander now, in Magic. Enters, exiles up to 1 target creature with toughness 5 or less, leaves the battlefield. The exile is card's owner of Manifest Dread. So they don't get it back, and it's only get crew 1. So you have vehicle decks rejoice. You've got removal on a vehicle that is quite good. It's only a 2/2 flyer. Crew 1 is low, though. That's quite nice. Yeah, it's good removal. It's also an ETB, so yeah, you can use and abuse that blink effect as well. So like if you have a blink deck, yeah, consider this one as well. Again, 5 or less, you're not getting rid of like the biggest creatures on the board, but most creatures you can take out with this. And again, you're not giving them it back. It's not like, okay, yeah, like when this leaves, they get it back. No, they just get to manifest red. So they get a 2/2 in replacement. And yeah, manipulate the top of the library, but not manipulate, but yeah, the graveyard. Anyways, moving on. Keys to the House. Artifact for a single mana. Pay 1 tap, sacrifice keys to the house, search life for a basic land card, reveal, open your hand, then shuffle. Pay 3 tap, sacrifice the locker, unlock target room you control, active on sorcery. This is more of a card for specifically a room deck. Next up, Waltz of Rage. This one is spicy. Sorcery for 5 mana in red. Target creature control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature. Until end of turn, whenever a creature you control dies, exile the top card of your library, play a card until the end of your next turn. This card is pretty huge, actually. Okay, so first up, it's kind of like what Chandra's Ignition in a way, but not dealing damage to players. So yeah, being able to just use your creature as a board wipe. Again, it does take out your other creatures as well if you have those, but still, if you're playing a Voltron deck, you don't care, number 1, or just a Power Matters deck and you're willing to wipe the rest of the board as long as like your one creature survives. If you have the biggest creature on the board, everything else is gone. On top of that, again, if you do lose other creatures, you are actually, again, impulse drawing off the top of your deck, right? Essentially as well. So keep impulse drawing. And even like, here's the thing. With like an aristocrat style strategy, potentially, you literally might just use this and maybe target a creature that doesn't wipe out. I mean, it depends. Okay, you want to keep, whatever kind of certain creatures in play, like your sacrifice outlet creature. You want to keep like, your Zulport Cutthroat type creature in play. Whatever it is, you might choose a creature that like might not wipe the board, essentially, but you actually can, again, just utilize that second part until the end of your turn. Whenever creature control dies, you are impulse drawing. So it just turns, like, again, this into a giant, like, temporary card advantage spell as well for you by, okay, I sacrifice this creature, then this creature, then this creature, then this creature, then this creature. And again, it doesn't say non-token, so keep that in mind. Being able to just turn all your creatures into massive impulse draw and have a huge turn. Yeah, there's definitely some crazy things you can do with this one as well. I definitely can see this one seeing a good amount of play, again, as both massive removal and also card advantage. For the right deck. Overlord of the Baelmerk, though, a 5/5 avatar that has impending 5 for 2 mana, but it costs 5 mana. Whenever it enters or attacks, mill 4 cards, you may return a non-avatar creature card or a planeswalker card from your grave to your hand. Interesting. I mean, if you care about self-mill, this could be very good for you. Being able to get down early, again, as an enchantment, essentially, not a creature, with that impending 5. Cool. Yeah, if you have any way to use and abuse that, that's great. Again, with ETB or attack, I guess a blink deck, consider it as well, depending on, again, if you have a lot of creatures or planeswalkers, and again, non-avatar, that's very specific, but still, yeah, seems pretty good for those types of strategies. Then there's Sheltered by Ghosts, an aura for 2 mana in white. Enchant creature control. When it enters, exile target non-land permanent opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. +1/+0 and has lifelink and ward 2. So yeah, this is actually pretty good for, again, any kind of like an aura-based strategy, any kind of like a Voltron-based strategy that use auras. I'm thinking Shram, obviously, but yeah, this is basically protection for your most likely commander. +1/+0, which is not all that great, but still, you'll take it, right? Lifelink is huge for those types of decks as well, because you're just padding your life a ton. Ward 2 is very nice for some protection, and also this is removal. There's a lot going on here. yeah, there's a lot going on here. Like, is this for every deck? No. Again, you don't want to just get 2 for 1 by being like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I put this on my creature, and all of a sudden I take, your creature out, and then they're like, okay, I'll pay the 2 extra, and I'm going to Swords of Plowshares, your creature, it's gone. Bring me my creature back, meanie. So yeah, being able to just take this out, yeah, this can definitely happen. But again, if you put this on like a Voltron Chimera that has other ways to protect itself too, this can be really hard to deal with. And yeah, it's some nice additional effects for you.
This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.